thank you all for taking the time to come in and to join us. Come on in. This is our +1 master's program information session. This is the first time that we've done this as a hybrid event. So we have participants joining online. We have participants physically here in the room. And I expect some students have reached out and they said they want to come, but they're going to be in and out of class. So I expect people will be coming in as we go through this, and that's totally fine. So we do have a number of people here today. I don't have the best camera set up in here, so I'm just going to introduce, and we have pictures here. We're going to hear from Jenny Nelson, who is our Associate Director of Global Operations, because part of the +1 program is that it also grants you an opportunity to go to global campuses. We have Richard Harris, our Associate Dean. He's here physically with us. Hi. And myself, I'm one of the Senior Academic Advisors at COE. I work a lot with +1 students. I think it's such a cool program. I'm really excited about it. And Adriana, we've got Adriana from our Seattle campus. She is our expert in the Global Campus Network as well. Thank you all for joining us. And then I'm so excited about this. Right now, we have 3 students that are +1 students with us here. So we have Abby Ecker, who is doing her +1 pathway in bioengineering, and Patrick Retta, who is here with chemical engineering, and Isabel Serrana doing engineering management. And we are going to just start with a little bit of information about what is a +1 program. And basically, this is a accelerated graduate degree program. So you can course share up to 16 credits. If you take 16 credits or 4 courses, generally, if each course is 4 credits each, in your undergraduate degree, you can have those credits apply to your undergraduate degree and your master's degree. And so when students transition into the graduate school program, then they would just complete their remaining graduate requirements. Most master's programs are about 32 credits, so you can complete about 50% of your master's and share those credits with your undergrad. We'll talk about that some more. There's some benefits. So actual benefits of the +1 program, financial. So by double counting coursework, so by allowing yourself to have courses apply towards the undergrad and the MS degree, you have that, there's that financial benefit. There's also time. You save a lot of time. And in addition, there's also a +1 scholarship that you can have applied to your graduate courses after you matriculate, and not to mention the many career advancements opportunities. Richard West is here later. He's going to talk a little bit more about this. And so I'm going to hand this slide off to you, Richard.
Sure. So let me get a sense, both online and those in the room. Where are you in your undergraduate journey? How many sophomores? Okay. How many third-year students? Okay. How many seniors? Okay. So that's important, because I think there's a period of time within which you have to make the declaration for your MS degree with your academic advisor. And there's a GPA threshold that you have to meet at the time that you're applying, and sustain that upon completion of that undergraduate degree. So I want to make sure that's clear. In terms of the breakdown and the financials, I want to look at this in 2 ways. Oftentimes you hear from employers tuition reimbursement programs, and those opportunities on the surface make sense for you in one context, but it also means that it's going to take longer. And typically it's going to take you probably about 4 years to do a master's if you're going to do that on a tuition reimbursement program. And the funding that the employers give you only covers X number of courses or credits. So it's not like you have full capacity or control of how you're going to make use of that. Second thing is, your commitment to an employer is, guess what? To meeting their obligations of either a product or a service. And that means they may not be able to release you if your courses start at 4 p.m. in the afternoon, let's say, to pursue that master's. So I just want to make sure it's a good opportunity, but one that I think the +1 completely blows out the water. So financially, if you're coming in for the +1, once you complete that undergraduate degree, you are a graduate student, and it opens up opportunities for you to be able to pursue graduate funding in addition to the fellowship or scholarship that was expressed here for you. And so those opportunities open up a wealth of options. In terms of earning potential, you'll see coming out with a bachelor's degree, you could make decent money. But the challenge is going to be your growth trajectory long-term, but also how much you come in at a given institution, a given company or a given industry. So typically with the master's, you're probably going to be looking at $15,000 more per year with that master's degree versus with your undergraduate bachelor's degree. The other thing is some people may say, well, I'll probably get, bonuses or increases. The growth trajectory, typically, if you are getting an annual merit review, very few companies are giving you 10% annual merit. So if you're making, let's say, and I'm trying to be modest, between 70 and 80K coming out with your undergraduate degree, 10% of that, let's say 70,000, is 7,000, right? And then extrapolate, so that's going to get you to 77,000. Then the same thing in the second year, if you're staying at that second year growth trajectory for merit review. Most merit reviews are 3 to 5%. So you're not going to see the growth in the 2 years that you would have gotten to a company and had that bachelor's versus coming in with the master's, which puts you ahead, right, in terms of that earning potential, but also the growth trajectory of your earning potential is much steeper and stronger. And so you really want to kind of use that as the basis. The other opportunity is many companies are providing what they call leadership development programs, operations leadership, engineering leadership development programs, and typically you have to have a master's to be able to have competitive opportunity for that. Some companies will earmark you for that and put you into again, tuition reimbursement program to be able to eventually earn that master's. But in the meantime, it's a slow track to try to get to that next stage in your professional development. So this gives you an appreciation as it looks at, again, the weekly earnings and what the unemployment rate will be at the time that you're at that master's level going forward. Even with a bachelor's, you're doing good, but fundamentally your growth trajectory for your earning potential really accelerates if you come in with that master's. Okay.
Thank you very much. Thank you. All right. So moving along on to our next slide, we talked a little bit about course sharing, but just for little more clarification on there. So these are the parameters for which your +1 program can work. So you can complete up to 16 semester hours or 4 graduate courses that can be counted towards your undergraduate and your graduate degree. And then the policies there are sort of to help you transfer those over to your master's. So if you take advantage of the +1 program at a time where you're really able to plan your undergraduate degree, that's really the best opportunity for you, because the majority of master's programs, especially the ones that work with the +1 programs, are 32 credits at Northeastern. And so you would be coming in with 50% of your master's program completed, which I think is absolutely incredible. So I'm going to go ahead and pass it off. So this is, for those of you that have just joined, we have some students here who are in the +1 program to talk to us a little bit about their experience and their program and their pathway. And so Abby, I'm going to go ahead and hand it off to you.
Yeah, sure. So I'm Abby. I started at Northeastern in 2017. And at the time they were very much doing, like, pretty much everybody did 5 years, 3 co-ops, but I opted for the +1 program where I did 4 years, 2 co-ops, and then my master's in an additional year. I chose to do the master's project path. So I think that there's still like the course path, master's project, and master's thesis path. I did the master's project where I was able to work in an academic lab. I had not had academic experience for. So that really just opened up my world to a whole lot of academia culture, and I ended up choosing to do my PhD.
That's terrific. Thank you so much. And then just while we're still here, before we move on, if there was one thing that you wished that you had known when you were in your undergraduate degree, thinking about PlusOne, is there something that you wish that you would have known that could have made things a little easier for you?
I think that probably taking the leap and doing the PlusOne, I don't think I recognized how critical that was going to be for my career path. I know like in my co-ops, most of the people that I worked in 2 industry pharmas, and like the master's is pretty much the new bachelor's. Like pretty much everybody has a master's. So it really gave me a leg up in both applying to co-ops and then applying to grad school as well.
That's great. Yeah, thank you so much. All right. So we're also going to hear from Patrick Retta.
Hi, I'm Patrick, and so in 2020, I started my undergraduate degree in chemical engineering and biochemistry. I completed 1 co-op with Alnylam Pharmaceuticals and graduated this past spring. And that's when I started taking some +1 courses. So I took 2 courses during this past spring, and it was really enjoyable. So I continued with it. They were just electives at the time, but I really enjoyed them. So this put me forward into the master's program for chemical engineering, where I was able to fully like invest myself in process safety certificate, which is something I really wanted to learn more about as I took a course in undergrad. I wanted to transition more into it. And so I wanted to do +1 so I can learn more about the specific topic. So being able to take these courses and get a certificate leads me into a field that I wanted to delve more into, prepare for. So one tip I have for all you guys is to reach out and talk to people that have either done +1 or have done a master's program in the field you're like wanting to study. I think having that opportunity to talk to some students really gave me like a lot more information about what I'm getting into, what's required of me, what events and groups they have that are available to people, what workshops. So I was really able to get a lot of help either in undergrad while transitioning and currently in the master's program.
What are some of the groups and the workshops and the ways that when as an advisor, I often have students that come to me and they say that they want to start having these conversations with other people and they don't know how to get them started. Do you have tips for that?
I know there is a master's council that kind of oversees a lot of the master's students and some events, and they help to organize some things. Like for people, I know they have like comm lab workshops so you can work on your communications, how you go into interviews, helping to write like CVs or get your resume set up. I know for Chemi specifically, we also have a student council, and so they helped us set up like a ton of events for both students, for work life, and it helps to just organize everyone into like nice community that really helps each other out. And so if you want to ever learn more about that, you can reach out to your own department, you can reach out to the academic team, or academic advising team in the College of Engineering, and they'd love to get you speaking with any of these people.
That's great. Thank you. Thank you so much. And then I am going to also pass it off to Isabella Serrano, and we have 2 slides for you. So just let me know when you're ready for me to move to the next one.
Hello, everyone. I'm Isabella. I'm currently a 4th year undergraduate student. I'm studying chemical engineering. I will finish that in May of 2025. And I'm currently pursuing my +1 in engineering management. And yeah, that's expected in
Thank you.
2026.
Okay.
So, yeah. Sorry, I made this a little bit ago.
No, it's okay.
Yeah, so to start with my pathway to the +1 program, I started pretty early. I had heard about the program, I believe my spring semester of my freshman year. So by my 2nd year, I started looking a bit more into it to see if it was something I did want to pursue. And they had countless degrees that I was interested in. And I knew that I wanted to take more of a managerial role later on in my career, which is why I kind of pivoted more toward engineering management. And after speaking to people in industry and while I was on co-op, I realized although I'm studying chemical engineering, engineering management was probably going to be the most beneficial for me long term. So I applied the earliest that I could, which was the fall of my third year. About halfway into the semester, I met with my undergraduate advisor, went over my course of study, made sure everything works, made sure I could figure out which courses I could double count toward my undergrad requirements, whether it's like an advanced engineering elective or an advanced science elective and general electives. And then I met with the PlusOne advisor for my program, just to make sure that everything lined up. And I found out pretty quickly, I think within a few weeks, 2 weeks, I think, that I was admitted into the program. It's a very straightforward, easy process. You submit your course study and say that you're interested for XYZ program, and you hear back pretty quickly if you have the GPA requirement. And yeah, so I have taken one course so far. I'm taking my second one right now. And next semester I plan to take 2 more. So I plan on taking advantage of those full 16 credits for the PlusOne before continuing into my full graduate year.
That's terrific. Since you are someone that was able to take advantage of the full 16 credits, you're really getting that advantage. Not everyone is able to do that. Did you feel like you had to plan? Was there something that you did that helped you to be able to be organized enough to take advantage of the opportunity?
Definitely. So I did not have a lot of elective spaces in my schedule at all. And I worked with my academic advisor to really figure out what courses I could take that fulfilled the PlusOne requirement that also fulfilled very specific requirements for my undergrad. So my advanced science and my advanced engineering elective were fulfilled with the PlusOne program. So even though those are 2 electives that are a bit restricted, that is kind of what helps because I only had 2 general electives left in my degree. So that was a major help talking with my advisor to figure that out.
That's really helpful. That's a great tip. Thank you so much. Okay. And I just want to, so here we go. Okay. So this is a big question that we get often, the application timeline and eligibility. So when you are applying to the PlusOne program, you want to make sure that you're meeting that GPA requirement in your undergrad. So the GPA requirement is the 3.25, and you should be applying to the program when you're at the level of being able to take master's level courses. And you should hopefully apply early enough that you have 4 credits or 4 courses remaining, if possible, so that you can help yourself benefit from that. When you go into another thing to keep in mind here is the GPA for graduate level. So when you're thinking, oh, I want to take this course for course sharing, keep in mind that anything that you're going to transfer into your master's program needs to have a minimum of a 3.0 cumulative GPA. So that is the minimum requirement to complete your master's. So it doesn't mean, it's a little confusing because it doesn't necessarily mean that you couldn't maybe get a grade that's a little bit lower, but then your other grades would have to pull that up, if that makes sense. And then if it's a course that's used for the core, it would have to be, there's sometimes a higher grade requirement on those. So a lot of it is keeping track of your GPA, making sure if you're struggling that you're talking to students, that you're talking to TAs, that you're staying on top of all of your thing. And as Isabella was just saying, the application process is fairly simple. So there's no GREs, there's no recommendation letters. Since you're already in the Northeastern system, it is really just about the pathway that's approved for your program. And we kind of have talked a little bit about this. We have the financial implications. So there is a 25% tuition scholarship after you matriculate. So if you decide to go into a PlusOne program, you do have that 25% scholarship, which can be significant, especially if you're able to take advantage of the course sharing. I want to go kind of quickly because I know we have a lot of slides and I really want to make sure we have time for the Q&A. So if you have a question or if we're going too fast, feel free to interrupt. But the one other advantage of this is that there's all the multiple co-ops. Am I remembering correctly? You said that you were able to complete.
Yes, I did 2 co-ops as an undergrad.
You did 2 co-ops as an undergrad, and then if you can do 2 co-ops as an undergrad, and then if you're in the +1 program, you also have the option to complete 1 more co-op at the grad level. So that is also an incredible opportunity. And now I'm going to hand it off. We'll talk a little bit briefly about our global campus networks, because as a Boston student, the Northeastern campus extends to just outside of Boston, and so there are potentially options to go to a different campus. And so Jenny, are you able to?
Yeah,
Are you
hello
on?
everybody. Hi. Hi, I'm Jenny. I work specifically for COE in helping develop these programs that we have across our network system. Currently, COE is in 10 different locations across the globe, and we have a lot of great programs out there that leverage different industries and different cultures, different weather, there's lots of different reasons that you might be looking to go away from Boston. This is a great opportunity as you have 1 year to complete your remaining graduate courses. Campuses that we've highlighted today are campuses that we've had a program for at least a year. So you'd be entering at the same time as those students and taking classes within that cohort. We have new programs launching pretty much every year at this point. So if you're one of those second-year students here today, you can always keep your eye out on our websites for new programs that we're launching, and that may be an opportunity for when you get to your grad level courses. So quickly, we have 2 current programs on the Toronto campus. Toronto's great. It's in the same time zone here as Boston. It's a little more north, maybe a little more chilly during the winter season, but it's really in downtown. The building is beautiful. They just opened a new building across from Amazon, and they have a lot of great co-op connections within Amazon, and it's something that the students really find as a benefit.
Okay. Yeah.
In Vancouver, another Canadian campus, again, has a great building in downtown. This time they're across from Deloitte and Apple. So another great opportunity to network and really just expand the kind of people that you meet. They also have an Amazon office in Vancouver. So if Amazon is one of those really appealing employers, there's lots of great opportunities to connect within Amazon's global offices. Arlington has a great campus right across from the mall in DC, and right next to the Arlington Cemetery. The weather, again, pretty similar to Boston here, but I love DC. It has a really great feel and sort of different culture than Boston. So if you're looking for something similar, but maybe a little different, could be a great option. In Seattle, we have an undergraduate program in Seattle right now for our mechanical engineering students. So if you did that one summer and you really loved it, there's chances for you to go back, maybe and pursue an MS in data analytics engineering. Seattle's campus is located right next to Lake Union, which is beautiful. They have a really great view of the sunset and are also next to Amazon's corporate office space in Seattle. So lots of great networking and opportunities to meet people in sort of the Amazon technical space.
And we also have Adriana in this call, who is one of our advisors from our Seattle campuses as well. So if anyone here has questions specifically about the Seattle campus, we have a Seattle expert here. And then here's our Silicon Valley.
Yeah, Silicon Valley has warm weather. Our first warm weather campus here. It's a great opportunity if you're looking in the tech sort of startup space. There's a lot of opportunity through the campus to get involved in the startup sort of industry. So this would be a great opportunity if you're looking to be there. And Oakland. Oakland is another California campus. It has more of a campus feel than some of these other network locations that we've mentioned today. There's buildings, a library, dedicated space for students. So if you're looking to sort of stay within a real campus feel, this might be an option for you. And Miami. Another warm space. I think we sort of sectioned them off versus cold versus warm, but it is a new campus. It's one of our newest network campuses, and we've started out with MS Information Systems. They have a beautiful new building in downtown and along the water. I haven't been to Miami yet, but a lot of our advising staff have. So if you have questions, I'm sure they're happy to answer those.
Right. Thank you. Thank you so much, Jenny. And so that's sort of the basics about the information of the PlusOne program, but really what we want to try and do here is answer questions. And so we did have a question already in the chat, and we answered it in the chat, but I also want to talk about this in case anyone else has this question. So the person that asked, are we able to put grad courses toward the +1 if we're taking the class the same semester we're applying for the program? And the answer is yes. And also, even if you take a grad level course that could be used for your +1 program before you apply to the program, that's also okay. So if you're kind of planning and thinking like, oh, I might do this, but I'm interested in this grad level course and I'll take it, you don't have to worry about, oh, if I should take that before or after I apply. That's completely okay. It's fairly common to see, and so don't worry at all about that. Does anyone have any questions they want to ask for any of the students or anyone from the campus? We also have Esther in the chat who says that she's specifically here, Esther Cohen from BioE, who can help answer questions specifically for BioE if anyone's interested in that too. Thank you, Esther. Yes.
Bill, I think you said that you were doing the PlusOne program as early as possible, so your junior year. And in numerous parents, you also saying that there's a time window in which you can join it versus not join it. When is the end of that time window?
I'm just going to repeat it because I'm worried people might not have been able to hear it that are virtual. And so he's asking about the time window. You said it much more articulately than I will, but he's asking about the window to apply and mentioning that, as Isabella had said, that she applied early, and Richard also talked about that window as well. And so I'll hand it off to you both.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
So when I was applying, I only did one co-op. So by my third year, I knew it was just going to be academic semesters. So when I was applying, it was understood that you would apply the semester before you would you would pursue your +1 courses, and it would be by week 7. So you couldn't apply. So it was like fall semester, my third year, I applied in the 7th week of the semester to the +1 and found out about 2 weeks later. And that spring semester was when I started my +1 courses. So yeah, I think as long as you apply the semester before you plan to like fully take on the program, I think.
On that note, I just want to, yeah, that's correct. So this is one thing that's kind of changing. So starting in spring 2025, ideally you need to apply to the +1 program before your final term. And so with that deadline, I think what's going to happen is the 7-week thing that used to exist before is going to be removed from that policy. So you don't have to necessarily worry about the 7-week thing, but you do want to apply before your final term. And then
I think you answered it.
Okay,
basically,
okay,
yeah. So,
okay.
yeah.
Thank you. Yes, go ahead. I think that you could apply the first term of your 4th year. Yeah, as long I think sometimes if you apply, like if you're at a level in your undergrad where you're able to take master's level courses, it's probably okay that you apply. Ideally, what gets tricky is changing your program. So if you're at a stage where you are unsure what you think is the best opportunity for you, it might make more sense to be like, you know what, I'm really on the fence between these two programs and I have a co-op that's relevant, and let me get my co-op experience so I can see what really makes me click. And then once you have that information, then that can help you to sort of narrow it down, because it is a little tricky if you decide that you apply to a program and then it's not the right one for you. And then I think I saw another, yes.
I have a question concerning the +1 co-op idea. So say for instance, you finish your graduate classes in fall semester, can you then take a co-op in the spring that still goes towards that co-op +1?
The co-op policy, so once you are matriculated into the +1 program, then my recommendation, if you really want to do a grad level co-op too, which I think is a great opportunity and you should try and do that, would be to just be in communication with that co-op team, because you want to make sure whatever the requirements are that they're looking at, that you have that. And I think I was recently meeting with some of the co-op team recently to talk about the +1 co-ops, and it sounds like there's some differences in that process that undergrad students go through that grad students go through. So you just want to make sure that once you're in the graduate program that you know what you need to do to be eligible to search. So that I always think the most unfortunate situation is when someone doesn't complete the steps and then they find a co-op, but it's not necessarily one that can work, if you know. So just be careful with that. And then yes, of course, you're welcome. We have one more question here in the chat. Somebody asked, for combined majors, could you give some more information on how those students can pursue an MS with such a busy schedule? No.
It was a combined major. So I think something that did help me in this case, which is kind of against everything that we kind of talked about before, but I applied for the +1 program in my fall senior year, so the latest possible. And at that point, I had majority of my classes done, and I only had maybe 2 or 3 courses needed to be completed in the spring. And so knowing that I had this free time, this free space in my spring semester, it allowed me to take the course that I needed for the +1 program. So my best advice for that is to really plan out your schedule when you're going to be taking courses versus be on co-op. I know sometimes they offer that ability to take some courses on co-op, even if they're grad level courses. And so take that time, meet with your advisor, and plan out when you're going to take courses. Ideally, take one grad course a semester. Don't take 2 like I did. That was not fun. But that's really it.
I have a question for the students here. So one of the questions that I get asked often when I'm meeting with students that are thinking about the +1 program is there a big difference in the workload between the undergraduate level courses and the graduate level courses? What are your thoughts on that?
My thought is no.
Okay.
I'm gonna say no with a caveat of some of the like as you get into like the 6,000 levels, like yes, those have more project based, which I feel like for engineering, an engineering project can take a lot of time. Not necessarily like it's not like a lot more difficult, but just the time consuming part of project based courses, especially if you have multiple in one semester, does increase the workload for sure.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. For the most part, you will be spending a lot more time per class doing work, so it's kind of different from undergrad in that sense. It's not that everything is a lot more difficult or the material is a lot harder. It's just a lot of it's meant to be on your own time. You only meet with your professors maybe once or twice a week. So being able to do that studying on your own time, reading the textbook, or spending hours upon hours doing like homework, it can really catch up to you if you don't plan it out well.
Yeah, so from my experience, yeah, the workload has pretty much been the same as undergrad. It's just a bit different in like what you were saying, you're only seeing the class like once a week, twice a week maybe. So if you're not on top of your work, it can feel like a lot because there's not as many hard deadlines as you would probably see in your undergrad courses. They're not outlined for you as much, but I wouldn't say that the workload has been too difficult. And if I can just touch on your previous statement when you were answering that question about choosing the right program. If anyone is on the fence, I had a hard time picking my program. I was stuck between engineering management and chemical engineering. And I will say the best thing you can do is talk to professors and people in industry and do your homework on what kind of salaries or what kind of benefits you would get with getting your master's degree in that program. As like I said, I kind of, after talking to people in industry, I realized I would probably get more of my return on investment if I went down the path of engineering management. And I also knew that I didn't want to pursue a super technical job, that I eventually wanted to pivot into more working with people. So that was a major part, but definitely talk to people on your co-ops. I was talking to a lot of professors as well, and also just reaching out to other students. So definitely have a lot of conversations, ask the difficult questions. We all care about money. At the end of the day, we're working for a job. So just ask, and Google. That was like my best friend, so.
Thank you. Yeah. It's a terrific question. If you're admitted into the +1 program and you have the once you matriculate in your master's, like you said, there is a 25% scholarship. But just while we're on that subject, just so you know, that is not the fastest scholarship to appear on your student record. So if you are admitted, know that that will appear automatically, but not until after the add drop period, and it's added manually, and it can be a bit slow, and we're the point of contact for that. So if you are admitted later, you have questions about that, reach out to us. But the thing is that with the addition of the course sharing credits, where you can course share up to 16 credits, there's not going to be other scholarships that are going to be applied to your degree in the admissions process. And so if you're interested in doing this, then one thing that you would need to consider is the finances, because even though there are those things, there's still going to be that financial cost. And so you can reach out to the student financial services to see in advance if you can do payment plans or get that in place. One thing that I sometimes tell students when I'm working with students, if they're on the fence, is if you're on the fence and you apply, but you're thinking that, oh, like I might want to look for other opportunities, you can still apply and be admitted into the +1 program, and then later let us know if it's not for you. So if you change your mind and it's not for you, you can switch. Romana, yes.
So I just want to add to that, when the student is pregnant. So, and for graduate financial aid, it's not anything. The students automatically qualify for up to 20,500 federal student loan for the academic year. And that gets divided between the 2 semesters, fall, spring, or you can divide it between fall, spring, summer. And it's not needed. So, if you're taking the remainder of the graduate program and say you have 4 classes left and you're going to finish it in that 1 year, you could potentially get a federal loan. So, and that's something I.
The only thing I would add to that as well is this is all STEM focused primarily, and so there's quite a bit of opportunities that aren't as evident, but exist in terms of fellowships and scholarships. So there are scholarships like it's called scholarships for service. And so they can provide up to 100% tuition and maybe even a stipend at both the master's and or the PhD level. And for every year of funding that you receive, they require that you then will work for what's called an FFRDC, a federally funded research and development center. That's all your national research labs like the MITRES, the MIT Lincoln Labs, the National Renewable Energy Labs, and the list goes on. or someplace like space, not SpaceX, forget it, Aerospace Corporation. And so those present an opportunity where you're paid competitively once you have that degree, but for every year of service funding that you receive, you've got to put in a year of service equivalent and get paid to that type of organization or company. So I would encourage you to really look at searching out what kind of scholarships there are or fellowships for both the master's and or PhD level, but definitely there are opportunities out there. It's about the timing though. So if you're going to look into doing this going into your senior year, you want to be looking for those come the fall of your senior year so that you are then eligible to potentially be awarded that for the fall of your first year of graduate school, the master's program. So there are opportunities out there, but you've got to be a little bit more diligent in seeking those out as well.
Richard, do you have any tips on how to find those types of opportunities or ways to look for those?
Yeah, so one of the things I would suggest is probably Googling NSF, National Science Foundation fellowships or scholarships. And typically they'll list, some are specific to NASA, some are specific to energy, renewable energy. And usually they'll develop those. That's something I wanted to talk to you a little bit about, maybe something we can work on identifying and maybe coming up with at least a listing that students could explore.
That'd be terrific.
Yeah, so that would be my recommendation, is to look at NSF, National Science Foundation scholarships/fellowships. And usually they'll give you a listing based on what's available, when the timeline is for applying, what the requirements are, if you will. There is one that we over support called the GEM Fellowship. Again, it's for U.S. citizens, U.S. permanent residents, focuses on STEM broadly. And right now, we just finished the application timeline. So it ended, I think, actually this Friday. It ends tomorrow. And that opportunity is such where if you secure the scholarship, you actually have an internship built in with a company that's going to hire you for the summer before you start that graduate degree. So in other words, you would finish this spring and it'll afford you the opportunity to get a paid internship competitively. And then you'll get 100% tuition covered for the full fall and spring going forward. But that's the www.gemfellowship.org. But again, that timeline is ended now, but you could look into it and see how you might be competitive for that.
Something I want to add to that is, I know this may be chemical engineering specific or maybe broad for all the engineering college or departments. Every now and then, if you find yourself in a project or you're working in a lab, they do send out like notices on specific like financial opportunities such as assistantships or fellowships. So they'll send out little applications or links to websites where you can apply. So if it's related to your lab, you could apply for it, maybe get it, maybe not. It's kind of a 50-50 shot, but why not?
And just one more thing, if it's discipline specific, American Institute of Chemical Engineers, AT, American Society of Mechanical Engineers, American Society of Civil Engineers, a lot of times they'll issue opportunities for funding support scholarships at both the undergraduate and graduate level that might be available for you to consider.
There's also a lot of scholarships related to cultural identities. Like I'm Latina, so Hispanic Scholarship Foundation is a big one that people apply for, and a lot of Northeastern students get it. I'm also a part of the pharmaceutical engineering.
Society, International Society of Pharmaceutical.
Yes, ISB. And they offer similar program. If you apply, and there's always at least one Northeastern student that gets it. If you're interested in pharma and you apply, they cover your tuition. So as long as you show them your bill, they'll cover exactly that amount.
We have a few questions in the chat. Do you want to go ahead and then we'll get some of the chat questions?
I was wondering, that's like a.
Yes. So, okay, one of the questions here in the room is about the 25% scholarship. And then we also have a question in the chat about that. I'm going to go a little out of order, but I'm going to read out the question in the chat too, because they're kind of similar. So the question in the chat says the automatic 25% tuition reduction Does it also apply to classes that are taken with undergrad if they apply to the master's? And the answer to that is no. And so be careful with that. So the courses that are taken after you matriculate for the remainder of your master's are the ones that are eligible for the scholarship. If you are admitted into the +1 program and you matriculate, this is more directly for your question here, then yes, it's automatic, but it's slow. So it's there. So what we have told students to do is once you matriculate, because you'll be invoiced before we're able to apply that scholarship to you, we generally recommend that students calculate what 25% will be and pay the balance, but to leave that 25% and then let us know. We're your advocates. And if that ever is an issue, or if you ever find that doesn't look right, you'd reach out to COE Grad Advising, and we're gonna, it's a little bit hard for us because we don't apply the scholarship, but we're the ones that approve you for the scholarship. And so we collaborate with the Student Financial Services team to make sure that that's applied to your account. So those are great questions. And I want to go into some of these questions here in the chat are building up. I want to make sure we get to these folks too. So for computer engineering, I still have 4 tech electives to take. I heard from my advisor that none of the graduate level +1 courses would be able to count towards these tech electives. Is it true? And if so, how do I navigate trying to incorporate these classes into my future schedules if I don't have much flexibility? So this is a really terrific question. So for the undergrad, how your credits are going to be applied towards undergrad advising, we have to defer to your undergrad advisors. They're your experts in this field. But are struggling with the courses that are used for course sharing for your master's program, depending on what master's program it is, there may sometimes be some flexibility there. And so reach out to us specifically with your questions, because you may be able to take a different graduate level course if you go through a petition process, or you may be able to get a course that's not particularly listed for course sharing, but has been approved in your catalog. And so there's going to be a lot of variances depending on which program and which department you're going to, but definitely on the grad side, there can be flexibility there, but you will have to work with your undergrad students. Was there anything else that I thought I heard someone wanting to add? Yes, go ahead.
A similar issue/worry. For the process safety certificate I'm completing, I think 2 of the courses weren't being offered for the past couple years since no one's been that interested into it. So I had a petition for a special topics in process safety course. So that was made available to me this coming semester. And so honestly, just speaking with both advising teams, the MS grad representative for your department, I forget what the title is, but there's a professor that will serve as like an overseer for all the MS students.
Or your program contact.
Program contact. And so this is the person that helps with writing petitions for whatever courses you want to add to your degree. And so reaching out and talking to them, coordinating between them and the advising team really helps you figure out what can be offered or replaced instead of what you're currently taking.
Thank you very much. And then we have a question in the chat that I kind of want to direct towards the students. Someone is asking, are there resources as to when classes are offered fall, spring, and summer that are available to us? So on this question, I know there's the dynamic scheduling tool, and there's a website that has the +1 pathways and the courses recommended for course sharing. If you need that, you can email us. We can share that with you. But one of the questions that I want to ask the +1 students here is, did you find it, I know it can be hard to register for graduate level courses as an undergrad. How has that experience been for you? What are the things that you've learned to help you navigate this more successfully?
I can start. Okay, so I always feel like course registration is that meme, like with the guy with the red yarn. But one thing that I did that really helped was I just had this like master list of every course that I was slightly interested in that would count towards my BSMS or the +1 program. And essentially I would like go through and say, okay, what's offered this semester, and I would try to line it up. And then obviously, depending on when your registration slot is, some of those will be filled and some of them won't be. And then if I ever did run into a situation where I was like, I need another course that double counts for the semester so that I don't essentially not hit the 16 that I wanted to double count, the 16 credits, I would email professors and ask, like, petition to be let into that course. And most of the time, I think I had to do that like 2 or 3 times. That did end up working out for me. So professors are understanding.
Terrific, thank you. Would you add anything to that, or was this yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so registering for grad classes, what I do, I just have the Northeastern website kind of always open for the +1 in engineering management, and that has like the master list of all the classes that you could use as electives for your program. And then I also usually just do a side-by-side with my plan of study to make sure those requirements are fulfilled. In terms of actually registering for them, it is tricky because grad students' time tickets are before undergrad, so usually the classes are pretty filled by then. But yeah, you can reach out to the professors, or I also reached out to the program contact and told her, like, hey, I really need this course. And she helped me fill out a petition and I was able to take the course. So that's usually how it goes.
Great, thank you. We have a question in the chat we can go to if there's, were you gonna just raise your hand? Go ahead, go ahead.
I did have one
Yeah.
question. I remember the answer to this is no, but I just want to double check.
Sure.
Let's say you do 2 to 4 master courses in your undergrad degree. Could you then take those courses to another school and have those applied to another school as a graduate program? I recall it being no last time, but.
Well, so that's a terrific question. So it's my understanding that most universities will allow transfer credit if you did not apply those credits towards your degree. And so if you are taking courses that you're going to apply towards your degree, it's going to be a lot harder to transfer those to another program than it would be to transfer those into a +1 program at Northeastern. That's sort of one of the great benefits of that. That's a really excellent question. And then in the chat, we have someone that's asking for the +1 students in the room. What concerns did you have before you applied for the +1 program, and what tips would you give someone considering applying to +1?
I guess because I was taking my courses when I did, and it probably wasn't the best plan. I had like capstone and 2 other courses I was taking on top of the 2 other master's courses. And so being able to balance both like a heavy course like capstone on top of a math heavy course that I was taking and an elective for the +1 transition, it really ate up a lot of my time, and it was a lot more than I expected. So I think just understanding your workload in the future and what you're getting yourself into is a lot of it. Being able to understand or talk to people from prior classes, if they've taken the courses already, what you're expected of those, and if you could talk to people in the grad program as well, understand what's required of you there. I know grad classes are going to eat away a lot of your weekends, either on homeworks or studying, reading textbooks. It's kind of a requirement to read textbooks. You will be spending a lot of time, so being able to balance both of those while having, time to go to class, time to maybe you have a job, anything like that.
Oh yeah, I will just add to that. I had a kind of similar experience. I had stayed on after a co-op, so I was working part-time and doing my master's and bachelor's project during during capstone. And it was certainly a lot, but I think if you're considering doing a master's, especially if you are worried about the financial aspect of a master's, which was my big motivation to doing the +1 program, I think it's completely worth it. Like, it will certainly add to your workload. It's a little bit just like time managing is just increases a little bit in difficulty, but I think it's completely worth it, especially if you're considering the financial aspects. And we made it through, so even if you're doing capstone and working part-time, like, it's possible.
Lastly, I would probably say going into the program, my biggest concern was the financial, first gen, like low income, things like that. Those are always at the top of my priorities. So making sure I was maximizing my courses, which is why I applied as early as I could or made sure to fit in those 4 courses. I will say in terms of balancing, my best friend has been Trace and looking at how many hours each course requires and kind of balancing, because I know I'm taking capstone 1 and some pretty heavy undergrad courses since it's my senior year. So in turn, I took a +1 elective that didn't require as much time. So it's just finding a balance. Use Trace. It's a great resource in terms of finding a professor that might work better for your learning style or just time commitments. So that's it.
That's great. Thank you. Yes.
Right, question. So for, I mean, being undergrads, we have a lot of resources, allotted to us for study help, homework help, professor help, things of that nature. As grad students, do y'all find that there's a new tool set to help you guys with your courses, like help you succeed? Or is it reduced? Is it the same as undergrad? How would you say it is?
I think it's in the sense of reduced and the fact that there's a lot less people. It's not as big as like undergrad is. But for the most part, it is the same. A lot of the things that are offered for undergrad help is also offered for graduate students. It may be a little bit more difficult to find, but all those resources are there, either in your department specifically or in the greater college itself.
Yeah, I would agree with that. There's like still like tutoring and personalized help if you like look for it. I think that the camaraderie in the graduate program feels more to me. I'm actually part of the bioengineering like grad student council, and like we plan events at least once a month. So like I definitely feel like it's very easy to find, you know, people to like suffer together or something, you know, like you can all study together. And if that's a different form of help than like professional tutoring.
Can I add one random thing? It's a bit of a pivot, a bit random. So I'm an RA for anyone who's concerned about the financial aspect. Being an RA, you can also have during your grad year in your +1. So that helps you save a lot of money on housing. So I think that's also another resource you can consider in terms of housing and food. So in your grad year, you could still be living on campus.
What are the responsibilities of an RA? Because I know you live there and you're the student support, but how did you get involved in that and how did you set that up?
So I've been an RA since my 2nd year, so the earliest that I could become one. And it's what you make of it. It's really nice in terms of you're meeting so many people on campus. Like my freshman residents for my 1st year, I still see it all around and things like that. But in terms of expectations, I mean, we have like Husky chats. I'm sure you guys get emails about that. But it's very casual. It's not super strict. We just have meetings every week and have to do bulletin boards. But for everything else, you can just get creative. So I usually just stop my residents if I see them in the laundry room, and that can count as like a Husky chat or things like that. Or just throw really good events. I mean, I throw pretty big events with lots of food. So yeah, that's always nice. And we have to throw 4 of those every semester. So it's not that intense at all. But there are a lot of +1 RAs, I will say that.
That's a great tip. I didn't know that.
Yeah, there's a lot
Yeah.
of RAs. And I'm in East Village now, and I think there's 2 or 3 +1 RAs there at the moment.
Oh,
So
how neat.
yeah.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. Jen, go ahead.
What's the most number of grad classes that you take in a semester, and how old that's it?
I took 4 one semester.
Oh my gosh. Which we don't recommend.
Yeah, I probably also would not recommend it. I don't know. I think it also very much depends on the course. Like luckily, like 2 of them were project based, so I was like doing half like studying and then half like meeting with teams and stuff. But that was the most I ever did. And I would not do it again.
So last spring I took 2 courses. One was one of the core courses, one was an elective. So it was a good balance of like really hard math versus something I was more interested in. So that made it more enjoyable. Currently, I'm taking 3 courses, 2 of which are core classes, math heavy, very difficult, and then 1 elective, which is kind of my reprieve at the end of the week. So it's honestly a really big balance of knowing I have this coming up for these 2 classes. I can kind of relax on this one and just being able to work on that little balance between this is going to be a hard couple days, easy couple of days, kind of get ahead.
Since I'm still in my undergrad, so far, the last 2 semesters, I've only taken 1. But next semester, I'm going to take 2 along with 2 undergrad courses. And I'm doing this, as he said, 1 elective and 1 core class just to have a good balance.
And just so I know it's a big difference between the course amount that people take in undergrad and grad. So just for reference, in case when I was an undergrad and then I did my master's, I was surprised that standard normal semester, you would take 2 courses. That full time is 8 credits. So it is quite different from that perspective. Yeah.
The only thing I would add to that is, we're talking +1, but then you have your so-called standard or traditional model, and the 2 course load is typical. The most I've seen, and that's with your academic, your faculty advisor also weighing in, is maybe taking 3, but that also presumes that you're full-time, you're not working, you're not having to, hold the job to make ends meet. So usually they factor in that you're getting some kind of scholarship or assistantship to cover those costs. So that needs to also be considered when you're talking about the load, but 2 is standard.
2 standard but in addition to that, the courses, if you do for some reason really want to try and take more than 2 courses, you can work with your program contact, and there's a petition process to request to increase your credit limit. I will say that the students that are most successful in getting approval for that tend to have a GPA. You want to try and keep your GPA to 3.5 or higher, because if there's GPA concerns, then it's hard to convince your program contact who's looking out for your best interest, that it's a good idea to take more courses, because they're going to want to try and protect you and keep you from getting burned out.
Setting you up for success.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. Yeah. I know we're running out of time. If we have any more questions, feel free to go. And then before you go, in the back, there's the paperwork, and if you didn't pre-register, if you want to, you can pre-register there, then we can send you more information. Also, there's cookies and coffee. Please feel free to take it. If you need to run, feel free to run. If you want to stay and ask more questions, you're also welcome to do that. But thank you all. Thank you so much for everyone that came and for everyone online. Thank you.
Thank you guys.
Yeah.